All right, so everybody can probably hear that you were just told by the computer that we are recording this. We want to make sure that this is available for people as an ongoing resource. I'm really excited to have some folks with me today that really have been on this experience, this ride with us. This is my son, Elliot. I'm Gabi. And Elliot is a rare epilepsy kiddo. He is 8.5 and has an SCN8A mutation. And we basically started deep connections about a year and a half ago in conjunction with a bunch of the partners listed here today, among others, as a resource to support families who have children with the more severe end of the spectrum of these epilepsies that struggle with a lot of ongoing challenges besides just the seizures. So this is a project that we were really excited to be a part of and passionate about contributing to over the last year. And you'll be hearing more about what that process was like. But it's really a pleasure to kind of have it be culminating today in the opportunity to share this with all of you out there in the rare epilepsy space who live this life with us. I think we all know the challenges that come with this, but also recognize how critical it is to support the siblings. And we're really grateful to Lori and her team for taking on this mission of looking at how to support these siblings who really deal with so much. We've got a great session today. Basically, I'm just doing a quick opening and then I'm gonna pass it on to Phil and you'll hear from him as a sibling and then over to Lori to talk a little bit about the research on the sibling experience and the kits that they've developed. And we'll hear from Marianne Meskis, who is the executive director of the Dravet Syndrome Foundation, a rare epilepsy mom, and talking about her experience with several siblings as well. And Aaron will share with us a little bit about life with Lionel with Dravet and Eloise, his sibling, who's 5. And then basically at the end, we're going to, leave a lot of time to talk and ask questions and share thoughts with all of you listening in and to hear from the folks on this call. The advocates that are with us today are all people that were involved in helping adapt these materials. So we'll talk a little bit about what that looked like and what the power of these resources really is. So I think I'm going to try and get us ahead of schedule and keep moving forward. So I'm going to pass things over to you, Phil. So Phil is brother to Amanda, who is 31, who has a PCDH19. And thanks for joining us today, Phil. I'm excited to hear from you and about your experience. And so I'll let you just go ahead and take it away. And hi, Samantha.
Yeah, thank you. First time I've actually done something like this, so thanks for having me and leadoff hitter. So I'll try to set it off right then, I guess. Yeah, I am, as has been alluded to, my name is Phil, and my sister Amanda is 31 now, which is hard to believe. I don't even think of myself as in my 30s, but we actually, I guess I'm supposed to provide the sibling perspective. We actually didn't even have a categorization for Amanda's condition until she was about 19 years old. Obviously, you go through a period of time when you're aware that certain things are a bit abnormal, and you deal with all of the challenges that those present. I think that the biggest thing for me when I was young was the fact that, independent of what Amanda's condition was, I was always an older brother. I was an older sibling and an older brother. So I had a natural protective thing, independent of whatever else might be going on. And, I think it was a little bit more challenging when she was younger, not so much when I was younger, because I always accepted her for who she was. And I think we got lucky in the sense that Amanda is very highly functioning, and I'm very proud of the person she's become. But I think when she was younger with the seizures, it became very that was always the biggest point of stress, because they could be very sudden. You never knew where they were coming from. You never knew how long they were lasting. It consumed my mother's attention, which always put an extra layer of stress onto things. So that was tricky, just from the standpoint is you never, as a kid, know how to act with that. Do you give people space? Do you try to be compassionate? What can you say, if anything? You know, and there's always a certain element of you wonder, like, is this something where somebody outgrows it? Or so I think when you're young, if I was speaking to anybody who is younger and trying to get an understanding of how to deal with it from the sibling perspective, there's a lot of unknowns, and that is understandably nerve-wracking, but you have to do what you can to be strong, both for yourself and for them. Anxiety can be one of those things that can breed a lot of other anxiety around you, and if you can be strong, you can help make it a little bit better. And I think just being accepting of the person, and you know, just trying to keep an even head with everything. I mean, the funny thing is, people have asked me in the past, you know, what it's like, and I tell them very directly, I've only known Amanda one way, so for me, it was never abnormal, and I think that played into the acceptance. But I understand a lot of other folks' experiences may be different, where they have siblings or kids where their situations are a bit more severe, maybe not as communicative, or you know, the seizures may be more violent, or she hasn't had one in years now due to a lot of medication, but that's had other effects too, where it's she has a lot of social anxiety now that she did not have in past years. For instance, she used to love to sing when she was younger. Now she's shy by any type of anybody singing, never mind her own. But she's more capable than I think a lot of people might give her credit for. And I think that if anybody can take solace in that, I think that that can help with your own internal issues that you may be having with a sibling, because they are capable and they want to be capable, I think is key. And you've got to be able to encourage that and understand that. It's difficult because you've got one side where you want to be really protective, and then another side where you want to empower. So, but I think that you know, with support and understanding and internal strength, you can get through some of the challenges. So I'm taking a look at the clock on the side. My time's just about up, and I don't want to go over, but I hope that that's what folks were looking for with the that perspective.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you so much, Phil. I think it's so important to hear a perspective from somebody who's been at this a long time, you know, and you guys lived with mystery for a long time. Jade, I'm going to hand things over to you if you want to introduce Lori and keep things moving. Oh, you're muted.
Phil, I'm going to ask you a quick question.
Sure.
Because folks, when they get to see their kits, are going to see a letter from you. So one of the things we did is ask some of the older siblings to share some reflections. And since you're going to be a new resource and a new name in there, since this is their chance to meet you, can you share a little bit about the thoughts that you put together and what it was like for you to kind of speak to younger siblings about the experience?
Sure. So yeah, being asked to write the letter was a very interesting experience. I'm actually trying to pull it up for now, just to have a bit of a cheat sheet for it. But you know, I think it is important to be able to communicate to younger people, because being young has its own uncertainties and anxieties. Never mind having a sibling that is vulnerable, or perhaps in a situation where you don't know what's going to happen. The experience I did find therapeutic, and the most important thing, more so than my own perspective, is I hope it can provide other people, particularly younger people, with some semblance of not just hope, but also just even short-term comfort, to know that that a lot of times there's not easy days, but it's something that you can work through, and that if you have the right mentality and are strong for them, I think you can find your inner strength from your compassion that you show. that, you know, my experience writing the letter, I had to go through a couple of versions of it because I didn't even know how to approach it. But the way I told myself to be able to complete it was, what would I want to hear if I was on the reading end of it as a younger person? So, and I tried to just act accordingly based off that.
Well, that's terrific. Thank you so much, Phil. I think it's will be a beautiful part of the materials that kids will have, and we thank you for pulling that together. We're now going to turn to Lori Bailey. Lori is really responsible for this whole program. It was her concept, it was her empathy and belief that while she was with a big pharmaceutical company that was focusing on research and products and family support, she had this instinct to really hone in on focusing on the sibling experience. So rather than give you my version of all the wonderful things she's done, we're going to ask her to give some highlights of how this program developed and evolved and where we stand now. So Lori, we thank you and we welcome you to tell us about the Zogenix Sibling Program.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Jayetta, and thank you for everyone for inviting me to be here today. It is an incredible honor and a privilege. And I just want to say, I have some slides that I'm going to share because I'll give you a little bit of the history and share some of the research and how this project came to be. But I just am so thankful that we actually started off with an adult sibling and that we actually listened to Phil first, because that is the first step. That's always been the first step for me. That's been the advice that Marianne has given me from the start is, you know, to listen. And that's how we were able to really kind of even identify that, you know, there might be a need in the community is by listening. So Phil, thanks again for sharing your perspectives, because we wouldn't be here without you and without everybody in the community. So I'm going to go in and going to share some slides. If you can just bear with me for 1 second. I am going to bring this up and hopefully I will push the right buttons and make it magically happen. Can everybody see my deck?
Good.
Okay, great. So we'll go right into it. So, you know, as I mentioned, we're all about listening. That's what we want to do when we go into a community. I've been very, very fortunate and privileged to be able to work with the rare epilepsy community, starting with the Dravet community and working with Marianne and the Dravet Foundation. And, you know, so that's where it starts. And that's where we first started talking about siblings and the needs. But when we first started talking, we started talking about creating resources. But then when we started trying to figure out, well, what is it that we know and what do we don't know? And what is it that we need to be able to create something? We actually didn't have the information to do that. We started doing research on unmet need. And when we looked out there in, you know, out there in Google world and out there for publications, we couldn't find any data where we had information from siblings themselves on what the impact is for siblings and rare epilepsy. So what we decided to do is take a step back and to start doing a research project. So that's how the Sibling Voices survey was born. We started with that first. And just to give you a quick look at what the survey was, we actually went to siblings and wanted to survey them and then get their feedback. And we had different versions depending on age, and siblings as young as 9 years old participated and up to 63 years old. And then one thing that's kind of important to get some perspective on the participants is that about half of the respondents were siblings and about half were parents, because we also invited parents to participate. And then about half of the respondents had siblings with Dravet or LGS, and then the other half had other rare epilepsies. So I want to talk a little bit about the summary of the most significant findings. We work with psychologists, we work with healthcare professionals, we work with the organizations, we work with the communities to actually develop the surveys. And what we were looking for specifically with the work that we did with psychologists were to create questions that could potentially identify any potential depressed or anxious mood symptoms, because this is kind of the feedback that we were getting. And when we did that, we did find that over 50% of most sibling cohorts reported feelings of unhappiness or irritability, and that they reported depressed mood symptoms that increased with age. And as a matter of fact, about 35% of the adult siblings had reported that they were either currently or had historically been treated for clinical depression. So this was a sign that siblings could potentially, we wanted to flag them for potential risk for experiencing depressed mood. Now, we also invited siblings to provide free-form comments. And when we look at some of those comments, you can see I've shared some of them with you on the screen today, and I'm going to read a couple of them. I feel guilty because I am the older sibling for him and a role model, but I don't think I'm doing a good job. And one sibling says, it makes me feel guilty and also angry. I have to feel like this. When I think about it, sometimes I start to cry and it makes me upset. Or my concern for my parents has caused a lot of stress for me. So the siblings are expressing, both through respondents from the survey and as well as freeform, that they're having these, challenging emotions that they're dealing with. We also heard from them on anxious mood. And again, the data suggests that many of the siblings are experiencing potential signs of anxious mood, with over 50% of the youngest siblings and adult siblings reporting being easily startled, and about 1/3 to 1/2 reporting having bad dreams. And then when you go to the freeform responses, you can hear some of the children, and you can just kind of really feel what they're thinking with these responses. I try to spend some time reading or listening to music to calm me down. Or I love doing sports to get my mind away from all the drama at home. One sibling says, it scared me and caused me a lot of stress that I did not believe I could share with others. I kept it to myself and it made me shut people out. And then another one is that their stress and frustration are contagious, and it sits like a dark cloud above our heads. So these are the reasons why, when we heard these responses, it validated what we were thinking and that we wanted to do something about it. Another important finding that I think is really worth mentioning is that parents, as I had said, could also participate. And the reports that parents provided on their observation on the levels of potential anxiety or mood symptoms were significantly lower than what siblings were reporting. So this showed us that there needed to be more awareness about how siblings were feeling, even with families themselves, because it could be signs or symptoms or challenges that siblings may be facing that may be going undetected. And so we did the survey, we released the data, platforms such as this, sharing the data back out with the community. We released several scientific posters and a publication. And then last year, we worked with Marianne and the Dravet Foundation and the community to create resources, because we identified the problem, we had the data. Now, what are we going to do about it? We didn't just want to present this problem to the community and then not give them any tools or support in order to address it. So we collaborated with them, and you'll hear more from Marianne here shortly. And then once those resources were launched, it was time to expand to the broader community, because remember, about half the respondents from the survey were from the rare epilepsy community outside of Dravet and LGS. And so that is when we got together with these 10 amazing organizations, because I'm really proud and honored to work for Zogenix, and I'm really excited that I've been able to work with this project. But guess what? I'm not an expert. Yes, I led the research and worked on everything and listened to the community, but I'm not a parent. I'm not a rare epilepsy parent. I'm not a sibling with a rare epilepsy. So I can't do this by myself. So Genix can't do this by ourselves. We need to work with the community. And that's why we're also very fortunate and honored to have worked with everyone to put these resources together. So now I want to share with you what we did. So what we've done is we've created an online resource called DEE-Sibling, and the resource is at DEE-sibling.com. And it is a website that pulls all of this information together. So I talked about that research, and I talked about the resources we made with the Dravet community. We took those resources and worked together to make them applicable and meaningful to the rare epilepsy community. When you go to the site, I encourage you to go and visit. It's for parents. There's a section for parents that talks about how we can support you. It talks about the new resources. And I'm going to show you in just a couple of minutes what the different kits are that we've created. And then it also provides a section called our tools and resource section. And this is really important for rare epilepsy families who maybe aren't connected to one of these amazing organizations, or you don't have access to certain care that you need to support your families. This website is completely free. There's no registration required. And all of the materials that we're going to talk about today are downloadable from the site. They're usable on your portable devices, on any device. So we encourage you, even if you're not connected with one of these organizations, to get on the website and check out the resources. There's also a section that's specific to patient organizations. And then we talked a little bit about that wonderful letter that Phil wrote, and you'll be able to find it. Siblings will be able to find it on the siblings section of the website, which is actually not navigable from the main page. And the reason for this is because if siblings come to this site without talking to a parent, there is a section for siblings, but when they click on it, they're going to get a notification to go back and talk to their parents, because we want to make sure that siblings are working with their families to access these resources. And then once they do, they will get a link where they can go on to the website, and there you'll find a collection of beautiful letters that are written to siblings from folks like Phil who care enough to share their personal experience to help others. So that is a quick look at the website. And then I just want to tell you a little bit about the different kits that we have available. The Parents and Caregivers Kit. The kit by mail contains a guide for parents and caregivers, as well as this wonderful little tear pad of love notes. And we can talk a little bit about that more in the program today. And then on the website are complimentary forms that go with the kit, which are downloadable. The My Form, My Family is Living with a Rare Epilepsy form, which is a form that you can share with your siblings support circle so that you can educate them on what a rare epilepsy is and how you can support them. And then the DEE-Sibling seizure plan form, which is a guide that parents can use to sit down with a sibling to determine what role the sibling will play during a medical crisis. So that's another tool that we have for them. So that's the Parents and Caregivers Kit. And then we have two different kits for siblings. We have age appropriate, of course, one for 4 to 10-year-olds, which has a wonderful book, My Sibling is Special, which parents and siblings can read together about what it's like to have a sibling with a rare epilepsy. There's a beautiful, colorful, engaging, and encouraging journal that siblings can write and draw in. And parents, don't be surprised if your sibling tears out one of those pages and shares how they're feeling with you. There's a sticker sheet that has different moods that they can use to express. There's a little plush star just to remind them how important they are, because that's one of the purposes of these kits, is really to remind siblings how important they are, that they're not alone and that they're loved. And then there's the Rockin' It Rough Day wristband, which is real important for parents and siblings to connect together about those, because that's a communication tool that young siblings can use to express how they're feeling. So if the colorful side is out, that means they're having a great day, everything is cool, they're rocking it. But if the blue side is out, that means that they're having a rough day and maybe they need a hug, or maybe they need to talk, or maybe they need a little bit more from you that day. And so that's a way for you guys to open up communication and talk. And so that's the sibling kit for the younger kids. And then for older kids, we also have a wonderful journal. One of the wonderful letters that the adult siblings wrote is featured in the journal, and it's very engaging, and throughout are wonderful quotes from the adult siblings to encourage everyone, to remind them that they're not alone, and that those feelings of anxiety or feelings of anxious mood, or all kinds of feelings, because siblings can feel happy and silly and sad and angry and all kinds of different complex emotions. It's okay to feel those things, and it's okay to talk about them with your family. And then they also have the Rockin' It Rough Day wristbands, and then the door hangers for the older sibs, because they kind of like to close the door to their rooms and not talk to anybody, and you don't really know what's going on. So this is a way for them to be able to communicate to all their family members, whether they're open to having conversation, or maybe they need a little bit of space. And so also on the tools and resources section are some more resources. You can access the full publication, and you can also access these great infographics which highlight the summary of the findings of the research. And what's nice about these is, one is a parent version that goes into a little bit more detail, but the other one, which is the sibling version, is a really great tool for parents to sit down with their sibling and review together, because it reminds siblings, look, there are other kids out there who have the same complex and different emotions that you have, and it's okay, and some suggestions on what they can do to cope and get help. All of these materials will soon be available also in Spanish. So stay tuned for that coming soon. Right now on the website, we just have the English versions. And just a reminder that all these kits are you can order them through these wonderful patient organizations. And what you do is, when you go to the website and you click the order kit, you'll have a little down arrow to click, and it'll list every single one of the patient organizations. And when you go to your patient organization, you can click the button to order, and it will take you directly to that organization's page, because it's really important for family and people in the community to connect back with the community who's supporting you, because they're the ones who have the experience and these resources and ability to be able to help support you beyond these with these resources and then beyond. So that is it for me. I hope I didn't go over my time. I could talk about siblings forever, because it's just a complete labor of love, and I just have a lot of compassion for the siblings and the families. So with that, I'm going to turn it back to Jayetta.
Thank you so much, Lori. And we are forever grateful for the devotion you've had and the perseverance in making the case internally that the company really backed you on this ambitious project. We're now going to turn to Mary Ann Meskis, who's the executive director of the Dravet Foundation that you really worked with to both do these surveys and develop the tools. And Mary Ann is mom to Elliot, who is 21, and his an older brother and older sister. So Mary Ann, share some of the perspectives and experience you have in the evolution of these resources and providing support for the siblings.
Sure. So to give you a little bit of background on our family story, my youngest son, also an Elliot, was born in 2000, and he joined his two older siblings, Dylan, who was 6 at the time, and Sophie, who was 5. And I had a typical pregnancy with no concerns. He was doing really well his first 6 months, and then he began having seizures. And for him, his seizures would usually last well over an hour and required emergency intervention. So for his older siblings, it really kind of turned their lives upside down. They would wake up in the middle of the night and we might not be there, or there might be paramedics. They could wake up to a relative who was watching them. We had to cancel a lot of things last minute. And I think my husband and I were really just kind of holding on by a thread, and we didn't know what to expect. So in turn, we weren't really preparing Dylan or Sophie for what to expect. And so around age 4, which that picture to the left is of Elliot around that age, we kind of realized this was going to be a lifelong medical journey, and that we probably needed to start preparing not only ourselves, but them as well. Next slide, please. So I was very fortunate that after Elliot's diagnosis, even though this was a rare epilepsy syndrome, and this was 20 years ago, really kind of at the start of the internet, I did find a small group of parents who were in an international support group. And this was really one of those topics that came up time and again that we were all concerned about is, you know, what do we do for our other children? Should we be preparing them? Are there any resources available? And I think we all recognize that, you know, we as adults were having a really difficult time trying to navigate this medical journey. And we had the ability to talk to other parents openly about it. We had resources available to us. So how in the world were our children coping? So back in 2016, DSF decided to survey our community on top caregiver concerns. And these ranged from comorbidities to treatments, to the current treatments that were available, and as well as family impact. And even though we really kind of felt internally we knew what to expect, we wanted to be able to document what we were hearing from our community. And this was certainly one of the concerns that rose to the top. And, you know, during that time, we were fortunate we had begun working with Lori and others at Zogenics. And, you know, Lori really made the effort when she met with our families to listen, as she mentioned. And so that was really where she came up with the idea for the Sibling Voices survey. And so certainly DSF really encouraged our community to be a part of that, because we recognize that having these publications would really benefit our community and help prove that their concerns were valid and where the unmet needs were. So we were fortunate back in 2018, she first presented the results at our conference. Next slide, please. So in order to meet these needs, even before Lori had kind of come forward with the idea of having this survey, DSF decided let's just start trying to do some type of event for our siblings anytime we have an in-person opportunity. So we do this both at our biennial conference, as well as we offer sibling sessions at our annual Day of Dravet workshops, which are just a single day event. And so what we were really hoping with this was just to give these sibs the opportunity to come together, kind of address their needs, but do it in a nurturing and a fun environment. So we offer different activities, and then we just try to give them easy ways to express their feelings and meet and bond with their peers who are experiencing similar circumstances. You know, I think sometimes we as parents forget, you know, because we're so swept up in making sure that we think that our children are getting everything they need. And of course, there's always a focus on the child who's ill. But I think, you know, what Phil was saying earlier is so powerful, that we don't always know what our children's needs are. And obviously now that he's an adult, he still continues to have decisions that he'll have to make about his sister's future, and he needs resources as well. So we really hope that by offering these opportunities early on, that we're giving these siblings a chance to connect and really build a support system that will serve them in the same way that our parent support group has united our parent community over the years. And then we've also realized through discussions with Lori, and thanks to kind of her firsthand experience from being with these events and connecting with the sibs, that having this first resource that was developed, the VIP Sibling Kit, was so important, because it gives that opportunity not only for the siblings to feel special and to be recognized for all that they go through, but it also gave parents the tools that they needed to kind of open up those difficult dialogues. So I would say kind of the two biggest takeaways that we've had so far is that there really is importance of having additional resources and opportunities for our siblings to help them, not just at the time of diagnosis of their sibling, but really throughout their entire life. And also we need more publications about impact on siblings, because this kind of gives us some leverage and power to show professionals as well as insurance companies the need for the mental health care and support of siblings that are going through this.
Well, Marianne, that's really terrific, and there was so many important points there. But let's move on. We've got Erin and her daughter Eloise. Leonel, their son at 7, has Dravet. And Erin, why don't you tell us a little bit about your family and see if Eloise might join us too.
Super. So I'm Erin Rioyo. We live in Washington State, just near Seattle. This is Yeah, I'm nuts, according to Eloise. Eloise is very 5. and she is the little sister to Leonel, my son who's 7 with Dravet syndrome. And we'll kind of get to him in a little bit, but I was really excited to participate in this. And I've told Marianne I'm getting better at saying no to things and taking on too much and trying to know my own boundaries, but knowing that it's about siblings kind of put a big priority on that. So I made share, let's see, here we go. I'm learning Zoom through, you know, getting my virtual tech skills through my children's year. Is that sharing now?
Yep, looks great.
Yep.
Super. So this is all about Eloise, and I could go on and just took so much time on it because I was trying to find pictures that really spoke about Eloise. And the irony is this is actually the 3rd slide I made. So I got right into what it means to be a sibling, kind of forgetting that she's her own person in Eloise. So she is a big explorer. She loves to get dirty. She loves spaghetti and pizza and sushi and drinking pickle juice right out of the jar. So she has sweet and salty taste buds and personality. She's a voracious reader. You can see one of those pictures. She fell asleep reading. And one of her new big favorite things right now is listening to audiobooks, which is her downtime. And she is going through the Magic Tree House for the 2nd time. She also has a very packed summer because we are have been trying to figure out how to parent in a pandemic, but you know, and parenting a 5 and 7-year-old isn't easy in the healthiest of years, but she is getting into some activities this summer that really are her own interests. But she is the little sister to Leonel, and Leonel is 7, like I said. He did have 1 seizure when he was about 14 or so months old, and we had 8 months of just thinking it was a quote unquote just epilepsy, perhaps something he would grow out of. And that entire time I was pregnant with Eloise. And so when she was 4 days old is when he actually had the first of many status seizures, all ending up in the ED. So we were spending the first couple months of her life in and out of Seattle Children's Hospital. She was just the calmest baby, staying in carriers or car seats. And just around when she was 3 months old is when he had his diagnosis of Dravet syndrome. And we went through that a relatively quick process. So because of that, she is a VIP super sibling. Here I've included her very first Dravet Foundation conference at 5 months old. She and I flew from Seattle to Miami to attend that. She's attended the conference in Denver. You can see her there with our Dravet Foundation mascot, Aurora. She has been to 1 day of Dravet in Seattle. And then she and Leonel are also Epilepsy Foundation Kids Crew members. So they do some spreading awareness and education as well. So rare epilepsy is a big part of our life, but it's not the only part of our life. And so you can see there on the pictures of her with her sibling kit. And last night we were kind of talking about what her favorite pieces of the kit might be. So do you want to share what some of those pieces are? While she's thinking about that, and I know ours will look a little different since it was first developed for the Dravet Foundation. But one of the things we have is the notepad that says my family is living with Dravet syndrome. And so this was in her paperwork today. I see. When I took her to the first day of her acting drama camp. And so they kind of looked at that and had a panic moment, like I was dropping off a child with seizures, having not explained anything to them. And I kind of laughed back thinking, you have no idea what it's like to drop off a child with that big of needs. But I said, nope, this is just us sharing because it does impact her. And they you know, you could just see this like gratefulness in their eyes. Like, thank you so much for sharing that with us. And they said that a couple of times. In her kit that she had today too, like her little school kit, I took out one of her sibling love notes and stuck that in there. And I think the one in there is about being full of sunshine. Eloise, are you going to come back and join and share your favorite thing? She's thirsty. So I will tell you, it's her, there's in here, it's in your bedroom, honey. She loves the putty, and she loves, again, it looks a little bit different, but the coloring book. This is a big stress reliever for her. And I wish that as an adult, I colored more often, just a nice downtime. But we talk about what all these things say and read, and she uses that. And then we just started her journal recently. And so she has in here, you know, she's trying to do her writing too, which makes her feel very important, which it is a very important thing. But I realize, you know, her answer to I'm a VIP sibling because I have a brother named Lionel who has seizures. Well, that's very true. You know, she's 5, so she's not realizing she's a VIP because she's kind and thoughtful. And because of her experiences as a sister like that, she includes others. She can be pretty flexible usually. And just really kind of takes charge in lots of different situations. His health right now has been really great. And so I'm not even sure she remembers the days when he was having so many seizures, but she was an 18 to 24 month old who knew how to do seizure first aid in terms of getting him on a side. And that's just, that's so young to deal with so much. So we're still learning all the time. And learning to be flexible when some people don't stick with their nap. You say hi.
Hi,
This is Lionel,
I'm 7.
and he's 7. An unexpected guest right now. So that's
Bonus.
our with that, and it's it really, there's not a lot of resources out there for, you know, someone her age. So we're just doing the best we can with being able to find those resources. Soon she'll be old enough to join in things like SIB shops that I know are nationwide. Part of my own identity is that I don't actually recognize as often, but I am an older sister to a little sister, little being, she's 41 now, with not a rare epilepsy, but with Turner syndrome. So I grew up with the medical side and the educational side of needs there. And probably I'm still working through my own anxiety and issues in related to that. So yes, you can have it shortly.
Well, that's so wonderful. And Lionel and Eloise, we thank you so much. It's so nice to see you here. This is all about finding things that celebrate what great guys you are and how much you work together. So thank you for joining us. And thank you, Erin, so much. So with the time left, what we're going to do, we have some of the team that developed the new materials. We've got Kim Fry, who has a son, Charlie, who's 3 with SLC 6A1, who has a big sister, Addie, who is 5. And we've got Mary Beth. There we go. Mary Beth is a volunteer with Doose syndrome, and her son, Jimmy, is 9, who has LGS. And her VIP sibling is Amy, who's 6. And Jennifer, who's director of support services for the LGS Foundation. Her son Theo has LGS and he is 19 and has 2 special VIP older sisters, Christina and Grace. And then we've got Julie, from the president of the PCDH Alliance, and her daughter Violet has PCDH19, and she has a younger sibling, Rory, who's 9, and Karen, who's president of IFCR, has Samantha. She was there, not anymore. Who's 14, and has two beautiful older sisters as well. So what we really want to do is just open it up. This is really the team with a couple others who couldn't make it that really worked with Lori, worked with Marianne on how do we adapt these materials for the broader rare epilepsy community. And maybe if there's any of you who'd like to share really the more personal side of how your challenges in your family, some of the successes and some of how you've, we know we all struggle with wanting to give more time, attention, and support for siblings, but it's often very hard. So maybe sharing some of the journey that you've been through in trying to have that balance of attention. Anyone want to?
I can start.
Oh, good. Mary Beth.
So much like Aaron's family, my son is older, and I was still nursing his baby sister the first time we had an air ambulance ride out of state. And that was quite the experience. So she doesn't remember a time when her brother wasn't having seizures.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was normal for her. And in the beginning, it never crossed my mind how much extra support she would need until about 2 years ago, we had another of what's now a handful of air ambulance rides out of state, and it happened in the middle of the night. So when she got up in the morning, her brother and I were gone. And she didn't hear the ambulance. She hadn't woken up. And then we were gone for a couple weeks. So I wasn't there with her during the fallout of that. But after we got back, she started crawling into bed with me every night. And for over a year, she crawled into bed with me every night. And at first I didn't mind, and we were working on it. And finally one day I just looked at her and said, I don't understand why you are so afraid to sleep in your own bed. And she'd gotten a little older, and she was able to articulate, well, because I'm terrified I'm going to wake up and you're going to disappear.
Wow.
What, disappear? What are you talking about? She said, well, the last time I didn't sleep with you, you and brother both disappeared, and I don't want it to happen again. And so it finally occurred to me what she was talking about. I said, you know what, honey, the next time we have to go in the middle of the night, I will wake you up. You won't be able to come with us, but I will wake you up so you know we're leaving.
Right.
She's been sleeping in her own bed ever since.
Wow. What a powerful story. The difference of opening up the lines of communication.
Yep. So this project was really near to my heart because it came along just after we had that epiphany with my daughter that she just needed to be included and know what was happening.
Right.
So that
Thank you so much, Mary Beth. Someone else want to share a personal journey? Jen?
Hi. Yeah, I think of our journey in different stages. And I know that when my son was, when he was about 3 months old, he started having infantile spasms, and we had to give him ACTH injections. And his dad was out of town. So he told me to enlist his sisters in helping me give Theo these shots. And I said, no, I can't do that to them. It's going to traumatize them. And he said, no, I think it's really important that, you make them part of this. And he was right, because, one of them, I mean, they were a little nervous about it in the beginning, but then, one would hold his leg because I had to give him the shot in the leg, and the other would hold a bottle to his mouth so he could have something to, take his mind off of it. And so then they were very much, empowered by, being able to help their brother. And that worked for a while. And then they were very proud about themselves as, at that age, they love to play with dolls. They love to be little mommies. So
Right.
It was great that they were able to help him that way. But then when they got into their teen years and they had their things, one was a softball player and the other's a musician. And we would take their brother, of course, with us everywhere. They, sometimes he would make these noises or have a seizure or anything that would draw attention to him, that would take the attention off of them, was not okay with them. Like they would be like, you know, Mom, can you find somebody to watch him so we can just go without him? And I was, of course, a little annoyed by that because I thought, how can you not want your brother? He's your brother, you know, but I realized really quickly that, you know, they needed their moment in the sun without him stealing it from them, unfortunately, by having a seizure. So then but they still have always been incredibly loving and caring and protective of him. But now that they're in their late 20s, the new phase that I see us entering into is they are starting to see themselves as real caregivers in the future. And the fear that comes with, you know, how am I going to live my life, have my career, maybe get married, have kids of my own, all of that, knowing that I'm always going to be responsible at some point for my brother. And at least they have each other to, you know, tag team off of. But I just sort of see all of these stages, you know, it's just like when you have, you know, any child with any need or without a need, you know, you think you've kind of got a handle on something and then you transition into something new. So I was interested when Phil spoke because I thought, okay, you're maybe a couple of years older than my oldest daughter. And I wonder where you're at with that kind of thinking, if you're at that stage, and how then do the parents of your sister or parent, you know, help you transition? Like my daughters now are part of every conversation we have with regards to big decisions we have to make for their brother. Just so that they get used to what's really going on.
That's powerful. Thank you so much, Jen. Actually, maybe you share, we've talked about it. I think, wasn't it one of your daughters who said, I know I'll have to be responsible in the future, but give me my 20s. Just give me
She
some
said, give me my 20s, Mom. You got me from my 30s on, but give me my 20s.
Right.
And she's in Croatia right now. And she's, you know, she's traveling and having a great old time. She moved to New York. She's living right now because I think she sees her future as being a little bit more, you know, kind of nailed in one spot. I'm hoping she doesn't, but you know, the reality is, yeah, she may have not have as many freedoms, but you know what, if she has kids one day, it's going to be the same things.
She'll be.
But you know, it's I want her to really just do it all for as long as she can.
That's powerful. I'd love to go through each of you, but there's a couple other questions I thought we'd share as well. Do any of you want to share something about the programming in your communities? You're all leaders in your different organization. Either like Marianne shared the evolution of the programs, and now we all have this new resource. Just some of the ideas of either existing or new kinds of programming that you're hoping to pull together to really provide the support on an ongoing basis. These tools, I think several people have said they start conversations. They're not fix-it tools. They don't make everything go away. They facilitate the open dialogue, the frankness. So any of you want to share some of the plans or programmings or ideas that you have that maybe we can hear from others?
I'll share something. It doesn't quite fit in your box, but it's close.
Whatever.
So one of the things one of my goals is to just really encourage people to take advantage of this. So I think there are families that do this all great, right? Maybe they've had counseling, maybe they've done a fantastic job of keeping communication open. But when I received the original kit to just look at and feel and get an idea about, I reached out to my older girls, and I did not expect the emotion I saw from each of them when I just said, okay, what if you would have gotten something like this? And my 25-year-old daughter just started bawling, and she said it would have meant the world to me. And this is the same daughter that sat on a panel and was asked, what do you feel like you missed because of your sister? And she said, nothing. I feel like my mom did a great job. I'm not saying that to toot my horn, but I'm saying even a kid who feels like things went well for her, that kit brought her to all kinds of emotion. And she said it just would have felt really great to have been the focus and receive something like that. So I just want to encourage people, there's nothing to lose by getting it, right? Like, just get the kit, try it with your family. If it doesn't work, put it up, but I think it will. And I think it will mean a whole lot to your child.
Can we circle back to Phil for a second too, for what Jen was saying before? I don't know if you had something you wanted to add in, Phil.
With respect to thoughts on caregiving?
Right.
Okay, sure. It's been it was never a formal sit down conversation with my parents. I always kind of knew in the back of my mind. I mean, there's been a passing comment made here and there. I think the challenging thing for somebody as they become an adult and it becomes a little bit more time pressing is the fact that you almost have to think in terms of, you know, it is going to be something where you're going to have to find a spouse or, you know, other family that are going to be understanding of that expectation as well. I mean, look, it's something I've always known, but something I've never quite been fearful of. I mean, maybe I should be. I don't know. I don't know if that's the right answer. Maybe I'm in store for a surprise or two. But no, when it comes, it comes, and like everything else that's been with Amanda, I will cross that bridge as it comes, and you can prepare yourself mentally for it. I mean, I think a sit down conversation at some point would be appropriate, probably, but I more or less have an understanding of what needs to be done with respect to housing and stuff like that, those types of logistics, and hopefully keeping her busy in the sense that, you know, a job and stuff like that, because I'm going to have my own obligations. I'm going to have to counterbalance, to going back to the concern before about freedoms. But I think that, you know, it is something where probably folks should sit down with their parents and discuss it, if there's big plans or if there's even moderate modifications have to be made. And I think too, for anybody, like I said before, the spouse is going to be important, because it's going to be a whole other person. You know, I don't want to be so crude as to say it's almost like having another child, because I don't think it's entirely that way, but it is another person to be responsible for.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Phil. Well, unfortunately, we're really running out of time. Kim or Julie, is there something you wanted to add or share?
I'll share one thing really fast. So I kind of feel like I'm in a little bit of a different situation, as both my kids are fairly young. Charlie is 3 and Addie is 5. So Charlie's my son with SLC 6A1. And we've really struggled with what to tell Addie, how to talk to a 5-year-old. She's actually never heard the word seizure. We don't talk about it that way because I've been afraid to scare her, but also wanted to, like, what does that mean to a 5-year-old? So instead, I was given some advice one time to just break it down and talk to her at a very like low level, like what is going on in her day to day. And she really struggles with why her brother, a lot of his issues are cognitive, as I think a lot of the kids have that too with seizures. And just understanding like why he does things that she can't do, or why he's pretty aggressive. And just breaking it down that like his brain just works differently than hers. And that's ultimately how we explained it. And the moment we explained it to her that he can't help it, his brain works different, but it's our job to try and help him learn and to be patient with him, it was like a light bulb went off in her head. And we just saw such a shift in her patience and love for him, as well as now she's the kid at preschool who, if there's a kid who needs extra help, she's the first one to go help them and teach them. And I'm so proud of her, but it's been a really hard like journey to figure out how to include a 5-year-old, because it's really scary for all of us.
Right. Well, thanks so much, Kim. And Julie, did you want to share anything about?
I would just say that our daughter had been seizure free for quite a while, and we had a seizure scare recently. And when she was younger, her brother, he's a younger brother, and there would be paramedics in his room, but he was like 2, and I don't remember him being particularly scared or being able to talk about it because he was so young. And when they
Okay, I think, is Julie frozen for everybody or just? Okay, Jen.
Yeah, actually, Gabi, I was going to give you the same question.
Well,
Do you want to share anything? You've got this same situation in your family and have faced lots of different things. Do you want to just put something out before we wrap up?
well, I wanted to hand it back over to Jen. I know Jen had her hand up to say, oh, no, you didn't? Okay, no. Okay.
I put it in the chat, just a link to our Sibs.
Oh, okay. And Mary Ann, did you have your hand up before, or was that just to circle back to?
I think you can go ahead and finish it up. I had one small comment, but it's nothing.
No, go do it now, and then I can take us out.
I was just going to say, one of the nice things that's come out of this process for us, and it has been very organic, is that at our virtual conference this past June, at the end of June, we had a panel basically of 5 Phils. So we had 5 siblings there who were all adults who shared their experience. And from that, we've really seen those siblings want to get engaged more and maybe start to build out some other resources that will serve our adult population as well. And so that's been an exciting adjunct to this whole project for us.
Yeah, and I think, it's also amazing, Marianne, to see, your daughter has also become really engaged, and I, my daughter, Vega, do you want to come and say hi? She's 5 going on 6, and she is, the very dramatic caregiver. And, I just think about how, do you like being Elliot's sister and helping take care of him?
Yep.
Okay, drama queen. Do you want to say anything about having a brother like Elliot who's got lots of health stuff going on? Do you love having Elliot as your brother? Do you go to him when you're upset? Does Elliot make you feel better? Give you snuggles?
When I'm sad.
When she's sad. Okay, she's having a moment here. But also when also at a very young age, she was 2, and she knew that when we had to do deep suctioning on Elliot, that he hated it. So she would say, wait, she would run and get a toy and give it to him. And he needs something to make him feel better. And, just the compassion and just pure empathy, and, that we don't even have to talk about it, but that, they can see what's happening and just know that, that they have a role to play, and want to be a comfort, which is really wonderful. So yeah, I'm not sure if I'm getting back to the question. I don't remember where the conversation was going, but Julie, you unfortunately cut out for a second. I wanted to let you finish your thought.
Oh, it's okay. I don't even remember where I cut out, and with the percentage I've cut out during this, I feel like I'm going to cut out any second again here.
I know. It's wild these days.
I was just saying the kits came at a really good time for our family. While we were working on them, I thought this is so useful, and I can't wait to get them for our son, because I'm seeing how anxiety producing the seizures can be now that he's older and not as protected.
Yeah, I know we've already seen some amazing things come up from the VIP Sibs kit, that she's not a Dravet kid, but just the idea behind these kits, and we're really looking forward to the story about my sibling has a rare epilepsy, because we also try to do a lot of education in our community, and I think it's desperately, sorely needed, um, so that I think it will not only help the siblings, but also help the siblings be able to talk about their siblings, and then hopefully ripple into the community more, because as we all know, our kids are not, our kids with rare epilepsy are not always seen as, contributing members of their own communities, where they very much have a role to play, but people don't know how to talk to them or about them or approach them. So I think this kit and the opportunities for parents and caregivers to have tools as well to help them talk about these relationships, not just with siblings, but on a wider scale, to me is a huge service. So, hey, Leonel, did you want to say something?
Yeah, you mute. We can't hear you. It looks like he's saying something.
How about now? Can you hear?
Yep.
Okay. You want to say it one more time?
Ask for my elbow.
She helps you with owies on your elbow. And what else does Eloise do for you?
Help me with my medicine.
She helps him with his medicine a lot. Mm-hmm. Is she pretty okay? How do you feel about Eloise?
Wow.
Oh, thank you, Leonel. That is so nice. That's a great way to wrap it up.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to wrap it up quickly because we're imposing on everyone's time going over. The place to order is in the chat. It's really simple. It's VIPsiblings.com. And that's the easiest way to figure out the way to get your order. There are 9 different specific disease groups. And if you're one of those, you go through your own group, and Deep Connections is really pleased to be able to be the distributor for all of the other rare epilepsy. So if your own child's diagnosis isn't one of the 9 groups, then you be sure to order through us. There's no bulk orders. So if you run an organization and you want to share it at a conference, we're hoping that you'll just share one and tell people it's just ordered individually, one by one. And as Lori emphasized at the beginning, almost everything, but I think the squishy star is downloadable, and more is downloadable than is even in the kit. So take advantage of scrolling through the Zogenix website. And then I want to share, which a lot of people said, that this is really a beginning, that these wonderful new materials are really launching, facilitating, and opening the opportunity for better listening, better communication, more open, safe space to share questions, fears, uncertainties. And we're just inviting you to engage in what the best next steps are. We have ideas of additional follow-up webinars. We've got an idea, we've talked with some families about having a periodic discussion group to talk perhaps about different topics like the transition planning or the waking up. Do you wake your child up before you leave the house, or for an emergency visit? Basically exploring what the next steps are of things that we can do together to give us more tools, to give us more ideas of how to move forward with the new questions and the new conversations coming up. So we thank you, Lori, again for your leadership in this area. We thank all the partners who work tirelessly to pull this all together. We are especially grateful for all the siblings who came and really gave the true message here, including you, Vega. Thank you very much. And others who are here. And we hope this is the beginning of more relationships, more support, more communication about how we can both support each other and support these very VIP siblings. So thanks very much, and we'll look forward to working together in the future.
Thank you, everyone. And reach out if you have thoughts. Anybody, we're always open to ideas. So you just, anybody who's watching this and has thoughts about ways we can better support siblings, just send us a message at info@deep-connections, and we'll hopefully be able to find a way to pull that together. So thank you so much, everyone. Lori, Zogenix, we're really grateful for all the support.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.